go-to example?
Yeah, man.
You should have said Gothamist.
I should. Wait. Gothamist. Like, I think they're like. I mean,
Gothamist is head and shoulders above News 12 and New York 1 and FiOS 1 and whatever the fuck in terms of local reporting.
Well, it's not really difficult to...
Exactly, because they're so bad at it. The Brooklyn Daily Beagle, Eagle, whatever. What the fuck do they write about? That's a racist organization if I ever saw it too.
The Daily Beagle, you say?
Daily Beagle, Eagle. What's the Brooklyn paper? What's the borough paper? Not my neighborhood's paper.
Oh,
Brooklyn Eagle.
yeah, probably Brooklyn Eagle.
And Brooklyn Paper Online.
Yo, I mean, there's a lot of neighborhood papers that do the local reporting, but I don't feel like you don't get paid.
They're doing like blah blah got married.
Yeah.
Blah blah got robbed.
Really community type shit. But like what? That's pretty much as local as you can get. I know you want like local on a political type level.
Well, that's the most important. What do you want? Why do I want to know who the fuck got married? Fuck that.
It's easy.
Fuck. It's the same thing with trend stories, which I think is just an abomination of journalism. Trend stories. Arts and culture stories.
Art and culture and trend stories.
Blogs are the greatest thing because that's all arts and cultures. Arts and cultures should get the fuck out of actual papers and just go to the blog world. And I'm saying that as a guy that wants to work in the arts and culture entertainment industry.
Nah, I feel like arts and culture and trend stories, they serve a purpose because they document.
They make the money for the paper.
No, man, not even beyond the money making thing. They document our lifetime, man. Like how
we document our lifetime better than they do, though. We document
maybe now, but I think like before there was the internet and before there was user generated content.
Before fair wages, we had slaves, Reggie. We moved on and progressed.
But right now, I don't think there's like a reason to eliminate art and culture and trend stories from the newspaper.
Maybe not.
Like,
rather this way, there's no way it's going to be eliminated. But I want to get that dialogue going. Trend and arts and cultures are useless.
You think they're useless?
Yeah, I think they're... Dude, the New York Times
I'm on the opposite side of that.
The New York Times, which is the go-to like arts and culture trend thing, they're like a year behind persistently.
Behind persistently.
Like they suck. They're so out of touch, and it's bougie bullshit.
Bullshit.
Yeah, boozy bullshit. Why the fuck do I want to know that a $70 restaurant in Midtown is serving ice cream in a very fantastic, interesting way?
You don't want to know that, but you know.
The majority doesn't want to know that because the majority can afford it. Stop catering to the minority that's on top.
Until they can, and then they're like, "Wow, I want to upgrade my social setting." I am not full of any
There's no
bullshit.
upward mobility. You think it's the 60s still.
Bruh.
You think you're white and in the 60s. There is no upward mobility. There is no fucking way anyone in the majority that's on the bottom is ever going to regularly experience fucking organic bullshit fish ice cream that's served on 77th Street by some fucking chef that gets paid $600 for making one plate of food. That will never happen.
Until it does.
That shit caters to the rich motherfuckers that fuck us every day in a myriad of ways. And if that's not enough, they invent new ways every week to fuck us.
And
New York Times caters to them. It caters to that fucking tiny ass population.
I disagree with you, man.
Those useless, non-contributing zeros that are on top, that are sitting on mommy and on grandma and grandpa's money.
You're angry.
More harder than they have not worked a day in their fucking life.
Yo.
The easiest thing is to give me money and I'll be a smart businessman. Because it's the easiest to be a smart businessman when you have that much money. And they gamble it away horrifically every fucking day. But then they go to their trendy restaurants and then you write a shitty trend story on it. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, oh, there's a nice new restaurant that 10 people care about. Meanwhile, people are starving. Meanwhile, a 16-year-old got fucking shot by the NYPD. They're fabricating the story. The NYPD put a frozen media zone so you can't even document it. But what's the point? Because no one's actually documenting the thing besides a bunch of people on the internet. Which then the journalism industry decries them, saying they're not real journalists. So then, Mr. Real Journalist, go cover it. No, instead I'll jerk off and write about some organic bullshit that's going on 82nd Street. Fuck that.
So, from this, I can conclude that you are angry. And you disagree with the direction that the culture and arts section... You disagree with the idea of a culture and arts section because you believe...
that with the priority of it. I think the
thing is that
industry prioritizes two things that don't
See, that's why I disagree with you because the New York Times doesn't prioritize it. I mean, it's one section in the bunch of sections that they have. in their newspaper, and that section like is not even really. I don't even think it comes like but once a week now. Like I don't think there's a culture section in the New York Times except for once a week.
Well,
Like maybe
that's
on
like
the internet
low-hanging fruit.
where there is like unlimited space on the internet. Okay, well then they have like people dedicated to doing that. But how does that take resources away from people covering local New York City stories or people covering important political national stories? It doesn't.
The
It's
thing that bothers
just
me
like
is
there's
that the New York Times always sets the trend. What I hate is that the industry falls to their knees for the New York Times and disregards any other source of news. So I have to sit there and like if I try to find how do I
But it's
describe
not for
it?
no reason that they do this.
Kalami
It's
Gray
not like-
story is the same thing with the Trayvon Martin story. It's the same thing with the Marley Graham story from last year. Is that small sources on the internet were covering it, and because there were small sources on the internet, the upper echelon of the industry was decrying it, saying it was really heard I'm on poor, that fucking bitch. That
didn't
you
go.
need
What's
real.
he say?
Just go there and report, but not really because you're not a real source. You shouldn't get stuff from Twitter and Facebook unless I get stuff from Twitter and Facebook. What you was saying was that you getting stuff from Twitter and Facebook and blogs is bad unless CNN gets them and then links them to their website. Then all of a sudden they're good because they have accountability and bullshit. They don't have anything. Accountability, you just spent the last week covering the fucking Pope. And I'm not saying you covered the Pope and other stuff. They only covered the Pope. In a 24-hour news cycle, you couldn't find one other
Son,
story.
do you know how many Catholics there are in the world?
And do you know how irrelevant the Catholic Church is as a political entity? Do you know how little input they have in the goings-on of the world? How
Do
little
you know
input.
how many people actually tuned
They do
in?
not influence where the IMF gives their money. They don't influence where the World Bank loans the IMF the money to disperse to the world. They don't influence the top banks. They don't influence the LIBOR rate that influences how much you pay for student loans, for mortgages.
Yo, that's what business news is for, though.
Business news doesn't cover that. They just cover how high the Dow went. Dude, it's all connected. You can't sit there and separate it.
Yo.
Economics, politics, and religion are all connected, but instead
You're
we're
reaching a
jerking
little
off
bit.
separately.
You're
with
reaching a
each
little
one.
bit. You're reaching,
How am I reaching? How am I reaching, Reggie? How am I fucking reaching? Business news affects you. Affects
So,
me,
if-
affects Matt. So does economics, so does the politics. They're all related. Science is related to politics now.
So you're telling me that for an event that happens like, alright, this is once, it was 8 years ago it happened before, and before the last time it was like 20 something years. For an event like that, which is so rare, that happens not that often.
It's man-made. It's a manufactured rareness. It's not a comet. It's a bunch of goons and a bunch of people in costumes voting another person in costume. That's all it is.
So
Are you Catholic?
by your logic, you shouldn't like cover sports then, or you shouldn't cover.
Really? No.
You shouldn't cover anything that doesn't have to do with like you being able to make money.
No. Sports. Come on, don't give me that shit.
I mean, I'm extending the logic that you're applying to
it's
this
okay,
story
fine.
to everything
I'll
else.
counter this with another example. ESPN. I'm not saying don't cover it, but don't focus solely on that coverage and not even dissecting every angle of it. You're sitting here, you just have a camera and you're like, well, the Cardinals went in the building now, and then you talk about the history of Catholicism. ESPN, they cannot get their mouths off the cock of the Monty Teo story for whatever reason. They can't stop. The same thing with Tebow last year. They were just riding him every day. Tebow mania. You have a whole sports world. You want to cover sports, then cover, like the word implies, a cover of sports.
Okay.
Cover the whole world. You're a 24-hour news organization, and you're covering one dot, and it's an insignificant dot. 1 billion people? Yeah, 7 billion people drink water every day. Are we covering water all the time? You're going to sit there, that's a straw man's argument. 1 billion people like it. Yeah, no, 300 million people voted for American Idol. And like idiots, we gave that credence besides the fact, instead of a more serious issue that actually matters in your life. Who gives a shit what the Pope is? Did Pope Ratzenberger, what was his name? Gregory?
Nah, his name.
No, the old one. The guy from this last 8 years.
Cardinal Ratzinger.
Yeah, but what was his Pope's name? Whatever.
His Pope name. Fuck.
Benedict.
16.
Did Benedict affect your life, Reggie? Did he?
Yo, man, a lot of things didn't affect my life, but that doesn't mean I need to not know about. I don't need to know about.
Okay, how many lives did Benedict affect?
I'm not.
Besides his shitty rhetoric.
People
Italian
who are Catholics who really believe in the Word of God, maybe he affected their lives somehow, man. I don't know. Like, I really couldn't tell you the answer to that question.
I don't know. I'm trying to convince this slave and goat here that there's a rich echelon of society that is just trying to fuck with us every day. I can't even get the words out because he's an idiot today. Reggie's
He's
dumb.
angry.
I'm
He's
not
angry today.
You know the Kamali Gray story? The kid that got shot in East Flatbush recently? It's a typical thing, okay? Police shoot an innocent, and then they write the police reports, and we have to take it at face value. And all of a sudden, that New York Times, they write some good stuff, and that's where it started. Like, the New York Times writes some good stuff, but they are in the pocket of that upper echelon of society, and you can't really take everything they say at face value. Especially when it comes to matters domestic, and when it comes to matters New York City, even. They had a drone puff piece the other day. It was a drone puff piece.
Well, it's a drone puff piece. Like,
it was a puff piece. Like, you know when you write a puff piece?
No, I know, but like what, how could you...
It talked about the importance of drones. It talked about the bad guys that get shot, and it was not contextualizing any of it. It wasn't saying what the price of drones are. It wasn't really going into how Obama operates the drones, how they determine who's a terrorist or not. Signature strikes. You know what a signature strike is?
Nah.
They collect data on random. They collect. It's data mining. Who's that big company? Stratfor. All they do is it's photograph everyone and anyone, collect all this data, financial transactions, internet, whatever, phone taps.
I get you.
So now that goes into large thing of data mining. Just collect information on countries, on every citizen in the country. So now the Obama administration has a document that says we're looking for this terrorist. He looks like this. He does these things. We don't know where he lives. We don't know really what he looks like. We just know this is his financial transactions or whatever. They match it up with other people, and if other people just happen to have similar, not the same but similar, like internet records, like they visited the same sites and they look brown, and we know they live in this region. All right, maybe it's him. Fuck it, bomb him.
Honest mistake.
Honest mistake. And then, just to make sure they got him, a couple of hours later, when there's, first responders investigating, they send another one, call it a double tap. They do this.
Yeah, that's true.
All the time. But the Obama administration, and what's his name? Alawaki? No.
Anwar Alawaki?
Was it Anwar Alawaki, the U.S. citizen, the U.S. Pakistani citizen that got killed? And his son?
Was.
Yeah.
And they got killed?
Yeah.
They killed his son, like 14 years old.
Yeah.
Robert Gibbs goes, hey, he might have been Al-Qaeda in the future. That was their official attitude towards the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Obama did not, the New York Times will never report on that. Even though the New York Times was shitting. First of all, they didn't shit on Bush. Then they shat on Bush. And now no one's shitting on Obama either. So it's all this party tribalism bullshit. The New York Times is very complicit in all that. Very complicit in all that.
All right.
They're establishment. That's all they are. And the sooner we let that go, the sooner we can progress. It's the same thing with any sort of big, quote-unquote, left-wing establishment organization. They're establishment. That's all it is.
They protect their institution, whatever their institution happens to be.
Protect it.
Well, that's the way it's gone.
I know that's the way it's gone.
Institution at all costs, right?
Well, I mean, you got friends, you got a paycheck to protect, you got to feed your family, obviously.
Say, who do we have coming in for Bill today? Is John coming in?
John comes in.
Oh, he's coming
in again.
I'm just leaving there for a few moments, running music and going down to the men's room, then going back until John shows.
No problem.
All right, we'll see you guys later.
I'll see you later.
All right.
Hey, by the way, Ari, did anybody ever get in touch with you
About
the 30th of March?
No.
Jim Lynch, he should be talking to you. If he does, he's.
I might have gotten to something and I ignored it.
Yeah,
I've
I
not
want you
ignored
to
it.
come and do a presentation on a given day.
I'll talk to
I'm
him.
alerting you.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Bill. Listen, all I'm saying is that you can't sit there and give the benefit of the doubt to the times. It should be a flip side. You should approach the times with caution, not with benefits of the doubt. Because they use that benefit of the doubt to their own advantage, especially after the 80s. You read about the history of the first Gulf War.
All right, I'll
Because
do that.
this is what
I
happened.
don't really know about the first Gulf War, man.
In terms of journalism, this is what happened. You know, the classic story about the Vietnam in the 70s was this kind of like journalistic carte blanche on the government. They covered anything, they didn't give a shit, you had to source whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The government's not stupid, they don't live in a bubble. So when the first Gulf War happened, which was the first substantial overseas war since Vietnam, They learned all their lessons. The media control they put on the first Gulf War.
I know about that.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it is. They did the exact opposite, like no cameras, and they regulated the whole thing. So within those like 3-4 years, your major news organizations, and they're major in terms of the eyeballs that either land on them, read or watch them. You know, so they're the ones that are like, okay, we disperse the largest crowd. We have a certain role to play here. We made a choice. And the choice was play along, because then we get the story.
Yeah.
You're telling me that has no corrupting factor, and after 20 plus years of that, you're telling me that didn't go awry at all?
I'm not saying that it didn't go awry.
And I'm saying it went very awry.
I'm
saying it's
disagreeing. I don't think it's that awry, but I'm saying there's things that happen. There's wrong things that happen.
That's the attitude.
I don't think it's as bad as you make it out to be.
That's a false attitude, though. You can't sit there and be, well, it's not that bad, so let it go. You can't
I'm not
settle
saying
on
let
that
it.
one. But that's that's what's at play, though. That is what's at play. Whether you're not saying that or not, that's what's at play. Because the second you sit there and that's giving a benefit of the doubt to the paper.
You imply things that I'm not even trying to imply, but just by me not assuming the position that you're advocating, therefore I am automatically like advocating the other position.
Complacency is a choice that you're making.
Complacency is not choosing a side.
That's choosing a side.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
I disagree with that totally, man. This is something I know somebody said something about like by choosing to be silent, you are choosing to help the attacker or some shit like that.
Yes.
I disagree with that statement, and that's like the kind of thing that you're trying to push on me right here.
Because that's what happens. The complacent ones are what allows the status quo to be maintained. That's what always happens. Yeah, we got some people on the other side that like vehemently hate the advocates of the other side. At least, like, you know what? I respect them for actually picking the side. But it's this majority ambivalent, like we don't know. They're the ones that actually let things happen because you don't want to sit there and confront something. You want to be cautious and perpetually give benefits of the doubt, which then is taken advantage of by entities like the Times and like CNN.
All right.
Especially now more than ever. Because people aren't reading papers. Because people aren't watching TV. Because they decided, like idiots years ago, to go public or semi-public or whatever the fuck they did.
Who?
The Times, CNN is a
Oh,
public
as
entity.
companies?
Yeah. So now you're more and more depending on viewership, listenership, readership. I think that was just a poor business tactic, but that goes into...
But they have more money now to do.
I mean, yeah, and what do? They line their pockets. I mean, now we're just getting into what's journalism's role in a society.
Yeah.
And you're getting into, well, how do you fix it? Because journalism's a service, it's not a business, no matter what Sultan says. It's a service. It's a public service. It's a utility, like water.
You're very idealistic.
And what's wrong with being idealistic? I'd rather be idealistic than a fucking ambivalent, either an ambivalent, complacent idiot, or a cynic, or a pessimistic, well, the world sucks, and what are you gonna do? So I guess we'll just take it. Fuck that! Kill me before I become, literally, kill me before I become that kind of person.
I would rather be old and comfortable with grandchildren and money.
Fuck, the world's overpopulated anyway. We're sapping resources. The last thing we need is grandkids.
People die every day.
Good, and more people should die every day, but the wrong people are dying.
Yeah.
Little kids that have no hope, that have no chance in their lives are dying. Instead of the rich fucks in America and parts of Europe, and even the upper echelons of so-and-so in the Middle East. What's up, John?
December 6th program is on the computer for the Locust.
What happened?
December 6th program is on there.